These are the scariest SpongeBob episodes, with the final example being a banned episode. But let's start with Squidward and Clarinet Land. The episode starts off with a very happy Squidward, which is already strange because if you know anything about SpongeBob, he's usually the grumpy one. We see him come into work with a smile, and despite many bad things happening around him, he doesn't seem bothered. We find out that his good mood is because he's attending a clarinet recital after work, but his good mood is quickly ruined by a customer's baby drooling on his clarinet. I can't take this anymore! In a rage, he demands that Mr. Krabs provides a place where he can store his clarinet. So Mr. Krabs finds an old locker for Squidward, but this isn't any ordinary locker. When Mr. Krabs opens it, we see bones inside, and this is only a hint of the scary things that are about to come. SpongeBob decides to help Squidward clean the locker so Squidward can keep his clarinet safe, but after a few hours, SpongeBob seems to completely turn the once seemingly normal locker into a portal to another dimension. As Squidward steps inside, he tries to find his clarinet, but things get creepy when Squidward starts hallucinating SpongeBob's presence. SpongeBob! SpongeBob, wait! Squidward tries to chase after SpongeBob, but he gets lost and ends up in a land filled with clarinets. Squidward starts hallucinating again and tries to chase after SpongeBob, but this time he bumps into a creepy eagle head.
State your business here.
The eagle grabs Squidward by his tongue and swallows him. And this is where Squidward starts to totally lose his mind. He ends up in a sealed room with mirrors on each side. Versions of himself swallow clarinets and start blasting music in his ears. Wanting to escape, he tries to run as fast as he can away from the situation, but ends up in a SpongeBob themed pinball machine. Is this even a kid's show anymore? He gets rescued by a giant Patrick, and at this point, you may think Squidward has totally lost his mind. But things only get scarier when he gets sucked up into a vacuum and starts chasing SpongeBob across space. The pressure of space becomes too much, and when Squidward finally returns home, he comes back liquefied. And trust me, it only gets creepier from here, especially when we reach the banned episode. But first, let's dive into the next episode, Planet of the Jellyfish. The episode starts with SpongeBob and Patrick fishing in jellyfish fields, but it doesn't take long until a strange creature starts popping up in the background. We find out this creature is a monster who is able to clone anything living in Bikini Bottom, and it sends out an army of cloned jellyfish to take over the bodies of Bikini Bottom residents. The first victim is Patrick, who is sleeping on a nearby rock. The cloned jellyfish covers Patrick's entire body and proceeds to clone him, and afterwards the real Patrick's body is carried away to an unknown place. I don't know about you, but if I was a kid watching this, I'd be absolutely terrified. SpongeBob then decides to go home, but not without bringing his new jellyfish friend. And the entire night, the jellyfish tries to clone SpongeBob, but he narrowly escapes. The next day, SpongeBob goes to work, and now almost everyone around him has been cloned. A customer who hasn't been cloned tries ordering mayonnaise on his Krabby Patty, but all the clones try to attack him for it.
What's wrong, dude?
Mr. Krab claims there's no mayonnaise, but when SpongeBob checks the back freezer, he finds boxes filled with mayonnaise. Strange, right? But when he pulls out one of these boxes, he discovers the giant cloning alien in the back, hiding all the bodies of the Bikini Bottom residents. Once again, tell me how this is a kid's show. Scared, SpongeBob quickly runs out, but it's almost too late. As everyone tries to attack him, SpongeBob eventually makes it out the restaurant, and while he's running, Sandy kidnaps him, thinking he's a clone. But after she realizes it's the real SpongeBob, the two of them figure out the weakness of the clones is mayonnaise. They put on a disguise and make their way back to the Krusty Krab, where they start squirting the clones with mayonnaise. This makes them turn into green goo and wakes up the original characters' bodies in the freezer. Like what? They continue doing this until everyone's saved before making their way themselves to the freezer, where they have to fight off the giant clone alien. Eventually they defeat him, and he also turns into goo, which Mr. Krabs uses to create a limited edition Krabby Patty. You're telling me these customers are eating a dead alien? But while aliens kidnapping people's bodies might be scary, it's nothing compared to the banned episode. But before we can get there, let's check out the final example before that, I Was a Teenage Gary. The episode starts with SpongeBob going on a weekend trip, leaving Squidward to take care of his pet snail Gary. But surprise, surprise, Squidward forgets, and Gary ends up getting sick. Squidward tries everything to try and make Gary feel better before SpongeBob gets back. But it's too late, and SpongeBob is forced to call a doctor to come and check on Gary. When the doctor arrives, he suggests giving Gary an injection containing snail plasma to make him feel better. But when Squidward tries to help SpongeBob by injecting Gary, he misses and accidentally injects SpongeBob instead. SpongeBob starts to freak out, but Squidward tries to reassure him that everything will be okay.
Nothing's gonna happen to you.
But later that night, SpongeBob starts to feel sick and runs into his bathroom. Looking into the mirror, he sees his eyes start to bulge out, followed by his arms and legs disappearing. And it doesn't take long until he's completely transformed into a snail.
Something is wrong with me!
Looking for help, he knocks on Squidward's door, but Squidward totally freaks out. He tries to block his doors and windows, but SpongeBob still manages to get in, and he starts chasing Squidward.
Meow!
Squidward turns his whole house upside down, trying to get away from him. But by doing so, he ends up accidentally injecting himself with the same serum that turned SpongeBob into a snail. And by the end of the episode, we see both SpongeBob and Squidward transformed into a snail, with no hope of returning to normal. But while this episode absolutely terrified many kids around the world, let's move on to the highly anticipated banned episode, which is called Quarantined Crab. For context, this episode was meant to come out in February 2020, a month before COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, but because of that reason, it was banned. As a result, many people believe this episode predicted the future, almost like an episode of The Simpsons, because what you'll see in the episode almost mimics what happened during the pandemic. The episode takes place in the Krusty Krab, where everything seems normal until a health inspector bursts in and declares that someone inside may be infected with a mysterious illness called the clam flu, which ironically has the same number of letters as COVID-19. As a precaution, the entire restaurant is locked down and placed under quarantine. The doors are sealed shut, but Plankton decides he's going to leave. But once he does, a health inspector burns him to a crisp, and this makes no one want to try and escape. As a result, everyone starts freaking out, thinking that someone in the room may be infected. To calm everyone down, Mr. Krabs comes up with an idea that if anyone feels sick, they are to be locked away in the freezer. But this idea quickly backfires, as slowly, one by one, everyone turns on each other. SpongeBob is sent to the freezer first, then Patrick, followed by Squidward, Mrs. Puff, and Pearl. But once everyone is together, they realize that none of them are sick, and they conclude Mr. Krabs is the real sick one. So they devise a plan to lock him away in the freezer. But when they try to execute their plan, they struggle to catch him and end up spending the whole day chasing Mr. Krabs. But here's the twist. The health inspector comes back later that night and reveals it was all a false alarm.
Nobody was actually sick.
But when he steps into the restaurant, everyone had actually become sick during the day. And the health inspector is forced to lock up the entire Krusty Krab for real this time and fly it away. But I want to know, what episode of SpongeBob do you find the scariest? And if you want to watch more of my SpongeBob videos, subscribe and click this video link to check out a crazy conspiracy that will completely change how you view SpongeBob.